Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, lovers and audience of UK-Liberia Chamber of Commerce in London. I'm pleased to have you join us again on this brand new episode of the UK-LCC interview. Today, we're interviewing an entrepreneur, a business savvy executive in the United States who is actually from Liberia. He is the CEO and founder of the TPG Global Group. It's a wholly indigenous company in Liberia, but he's currently speaking to us from the United States of America. As you all know, in UK LCC, we are a voice for advocacy for businesses globally who are focused on integrating themselves in Liberia and, of course, in the United Kingdom. My name is Wofai Samuel, and I am the Communication and External Affairs Director for UK-Liberia Chamber of Commerce. I'm pleased to introduce my guest in person of Mr. Ralph Dia. He is the founder and Chief Executive Officer of TBG Global Business Group. It's good to have you join us on the program, Mr. Ralph Dia.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, very quickly, I'd like to begin with an overview of TBG. Could you give us a summary idea? What is this business group about? What are your services? What are your accomplishments so far? Are you based in the US and operating in Liberia? Or, like I did mention, you're wholly indigenous in Liberia and operational in Liberia?
Okay. Thank you for the invite, first of all. Yes, TBG is a holdings company that we started early last year once the pandemic kind of came into effect. I started a business with two business partners of mine here in the United States because I'm originally from Liberia and I moved to the United States as a kid. And through business successes here, I decided it was time to go back home and make an impact and make a change in my country. So pretty much we are involved in four different sectors right now. And one of those sectors is develop affordable housing. Affordable housing in Liberia, agriculture, mainly livestock agriculture, and also manufacturing, something we're trying to get into, and automotive as well. Currently, we've been developing some low-income housing within the country, as well as, like I said, agriculture aspect of things. We've been working with a pretty large turnkey agriculture project company from Israel to bring them to Liberia to hopefully put together one of the largest poultry farms in the country. And that's something that we're passionate about and something that we've been working very, very hard to bring into fruition.
Fantastic. So you're into agriculture, real estate, and a few.
Yes.
Living in Liberia as a child for the United States of America, I'm very sure you're very frequent in Liberia. You've been able to study the terrain, to have established the business in Liberia. Obviously, you're very familiar with the terrain. So from your perspective, presently in 2021, 2020, how would you review the business situation, the business environment and climate in Liberia? What are your views?
Right now, and this is me being completely transparent, Liberia has a few years to go where we can get to that point of, I want to say, we can get to that point of full transparency, especially with people coming from other countries to come to Liberia and invest in the country. The business landscape right now is primarily dominated by foreigners, which is something that I'm kind of iffy about, right? Most businesses, for example, supermarkets, restaurants, hotels, mostly everything in the country currently, foreigners own it, right? And it's easier for foreigners to come into Liberia and do business than it is for Liberians to go into business, which is something that, like I said, it should be on kind of like the same scale, right? We want to attract foreign investors to Liberia, but then again, we want our people, Liberians, to be lifted as well while these foreign investors are coming into Liberia. The scale right now is literally foreign investors here and Liberians are down here. And that's something that I personally, even though I am all for bringing foreign investors into the country, I'm also want Liberians to be part of that transaction from a third world country to, to the growth of Liberia. So the business landscape in submission it's it's good, right? It's open, it's ready for foreign investors. But then again, we want Liberians to be part of that as well.
Okay, fantastic. Very brilliant conversation we're already having, Mr. Rafaya. So you just reminded me of something. The African Export-Import Bank are very strong advocates for intra-African
Mhm,
trade. And so when you talk about,
mhm,
Liberian locals, indigenous Liberian people establishing business
mhm,
in Liberia, you're saying you want to see
mhm.
more Liberian-owned businesses by Liberians,
Yes,
not just having
yes,
foreigners intrude Liberia
yes,
to run their
e-
businesses. It's not as though you don't
exactly.
country, but you also want to see Liberians doing well with their businesses.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
If I were to ask you this question very directly, what do you think are some of the factors that are restricting indigenous Liberians from establishing in country? Could it be policies of government? Could it be that they don't have, capacity themselves? Could it be funding?
Mhm,
Because I mean, when you're coming
mhm,
from an international community, you're coming with FX,
mhm,
you're coming with a lot of,
mhm,
global foreign expertise as compared to a lot of people who
mhm,
are indigenized in Africa who, to a reasonable extent,
mhm,
lack the skill. But for you, as an
mhm,
experienced, seasoned
mhm,
entrepreneur from Nigeria, what do you think
mhm.
that fundamental problem is? Where does it lie?
Um, honestly, the I believe that one of the problem that us as Liberians have is the mentality. First of all,
Okay.
Liberians much Liberians prefer being employed by a foreign entity than saying, okay, let me go and work for Liberian-owned business. Not to say Liberians there aren't entrepreneurial Liberians in the country. There are. There's a lot of them. But like I said, the Liberians prefer working for uh, someone else than working for indigenous Liberians because the narrative or the mentality is, oh, this person is a Liberian-owned business. They're not going to pay me well, as in the foreigner is going to pay me much better than this person might pay me, right? So it's one of those things that I believe that needs to be changed. Is the mentality. We should be proud of working for Liberians than just working for foreigners as well. Secondly, it's access to funding, right? Many Liberians want to be able to go into business, but can you hear me? All right. Many Liberians want to be able to go into business, but the landscape of acquiring that funding to go into business is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. When the banking system needs a lot of help, right? Um, Going to a bank to get a small business loan or going to a bank to get some type of funding, you have to jump through so many different hoops that many Liberians don't want to go through that process, right? So they just decide, okay, we'll just wait till government comes in and give us assistance. We won't take the initiative to go and try to make that possible because of the difficulties it takes to obtain any type of funding. So I'll say that's the second problem or second thing that needs to be changed, and also the level of the educational level, right? Um, we need to, as a country now, invest more into our educational system, right? Um, Infrastructurally, for example, the university is deteriorating you know, at a fast rate. It's been years since there has been any type of renovation to it. So how can you encourage students to want to go to school when they're sitting in a classroom and it's water leaking from the roof and things are, not, sanitary for them? So we need to, as a country now, invest into, the educational infrastructure and the educational system. And I think once that, starts to change, I honestly believe that, Liberians will rise at a faster rate.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, just like you have
Mhm,
mentioned, education is key for any
mhm,
society. The citadel of learning,
mhm,
more to say,
mhm,
the fundamental prerequisite to the advancement of
mhm,
any country. Your country are just as liberated,
mhm.
as much
Yes.
as educated and skilled your people are. So, but for
Mhm,
Liberia, recently we've
mhm,
had a couple of interviews with some CEOs in Liberia,
mhm,
industry, people in the banking sector, and they have said they are very
mhm,
optimistic. They have
mhm,
reiterated, the fact that in the past couple of years, precisely in the past
mhm.
2 years, there's been a lot of increase in foreign direct investment into Liberia. I'm still
Yes.
going to
Mhm,
investment. But like you are well aware,
mhm.
Africa doesn't necessarily have the financial resources to fund itself.
Yeah.
But at the moment,
Yes.
to a reasonable extent, we're depending on, foreign investors like yourself, to name a
Mhm,
few of them.
mhm,
But in your analysis, how would you analyze the state of foreign investment into Liberia in recent
mhm.
times compared to how it was previously? Are you impressed?
Okay.
Liberia doing
Yes.
well?
Yes. Yes. That's something that I can say. I've been extremely impressed for the amounts of foreign investment that are coming into the country. Um, and you can see it. You can see it. We've done some work. We've imported some stuff into the country, and we spent some time at the free port in Liberia. Both of the ports in Liberia, we spent some time, trying to obtain our containers that we shipped into the country. And you can see, different companies. There's an iron ore mining company that thousands and thousands of containers are coming in a day, right? And they're making those investments. So you can see, there is, and I can honestly say I'm optimistic. Foreign direct investments, it's flowing in. And I would like, honestly, right now, I would say we're about a 4 point something growth rate in FDIs. Um, I would definitely like to see that, increase a bit more. But I'm optimistic that within the near future, Liberia will be on the up and up.
Fantastic. So, Mr. Crafty of TBG, could you briefly highlight some of the successes you have had in
Mhm,
Liberia so far? I mean, you're to a reasonable extent a fairly new entrepreneur in Liberia, trying to experience the
mhm,
Liberian business terrain. You haven't been
mhm,
doing this for up to a decade, but in the past 1, 2 years, in your
mhm,
words, what has been the success
mhm.
recorded so far?
Okay. Personally, some of the successes that we've had is um, just getting acclimated. I'll say first and foremost, because like I told you, I was born there, but I was raised there, and going back, the culture differences is something that you have to be ready for. So it was one of those things where just learning to interact with Liberians, just learning to, be part of the culture was part of my personal successes. And in terms of business, just, acquiring land, I would say, for our development projects. When you're acquiring land, you're dealing with indigenous people, right? And their values and how they do business is different from you going to a corporate office and dealing with them. So those interactions and us making it happen, was part of our personal success as well. Um, Also, like I said, there are challenges, right? Um, Importing things into the country is one of our most difficult challenge to date. And that's something that we've figured out, every step of the way, and I can say it is one of the things that we're extremely proud of, because now in the process of importing things to the country is much more um, smooth than it was when we first started, and starting our first agriculture project. So these are the things that we've been successful in, things that we're extremely proud of.
Fantastic. So, roughly, if you were to pitch Liberia to a foreign investor or even
Hmm.
a regional investor, I am from Nigeria,
Okay.
right? So if you were to
Okay.
pitch Liberia to an investor from anywhere in the world, what are the
Hmm.
what are the most attractive qualities or features of the country in
Hmm.
itself?
Okay. First and foremost, it's a beautiful country. I'll say that, right? One of the longest shorelines in West Africa. Um, So the attraction alone is extremely, beautiful to just be in the country. Secondly, the country is ripe for investments. Every sector you can possibly think about needs investment. And if any foreign business person or any foreign investor who is looking for an emerging market to put money into, Liberia will be, ideal for you. Tourism industry is something that, it's non-existent, but if somebody can come in and say, okay, let me invest into this, I believe their return on investment will be astronomical. Manufacturing sectors, energy, hospitals, healthcare, there's many different things that, and for example, let me give you a quick story. When we first arrived there, a colleague of mine who has never been there before, we had a rental vehicle that he wanted to clean, right? And we drove all throughout the city looking for a car wash. And we could not find a single car wash in the entire capital. So for example, if you were to, and it's literally kids on the side of the road where there's a stream of water and they're washing cars to earn a living, right? So if you were to come into the country, for example, and say, okay, let me, somewhere within the capital, set up a automatic car wash, right? That's just then and there that if you set up 4 or 5 of those throughout the city, that's a profitable, and that's a good business right there, right? And you can hire and employ these young kids who are looking for things to do. So I'll always recommend Liberia to any investor, despite it having its challenges, right? The outcome or the success, I'll say, outweighs the challenges in Liberia.
Fantastic. So you clearly stated that the successes in Liberia outweighs the challenges. So now, the next question I'd like to ask you is, when you look at policies in different countries, a lot of people have said government has no business doing business, which is actually true. But government needs to provide the investors and the business people a quality environment where their businesses can make profits, people can get their return on investment. So government makes policy. What kinds of policies would you like to see in Liberia? I'll give you a typical example. We spoke to a senior CEO in the aviation industry, one of the managing directors. In fact, the country manager of Lufthansa, to be precise. And he made a statement. He said the government needs to invest in infrastructure. If the government doesn't have the ability to invest in infrastructure, the government needs to partner with donor agents and financial institutions. So definitely, he wants to see a change in the infrastructural policies of Liberia. You're in the agricultural side, including agriculture. What are the general policies you'd like to see the government implement to make it easy for business people of your kind and other business people who might be looking to explore? What do you want to see in terms of policy?
Good question, first of all. And I'll say, and this is something that, based on, if you study the history of Liberia, right, it was formed with the whole ideology of Pan-Africanism, right? And Liberia holds that value to this day. I believe this is something that, I strongly, because I have some colleagues and we've done some work in Ghana as well. And we see the growth of both Ghana and Nigeria and how they're growing at an exponential rate. I believe Liberia, policy-wise, should implement the dual citizenship policy, yes. Pass that into law to give opportunities, because like I said, a lot of Liberians in the diaspora wants to go back home and do business, right? But a lot of those people don't want to give up whatever country they're in, they don't want to give up citizenship to, come back to Liberia and obtain citizenship there. That's something that I've spoken to a lot of business people, especially Liberian Americans, or when I'm in Europe, and that's one of the key, problems, right? When is Liberia going to allow us to have dual citizenship? I want to come home and be a citizen. I want to come home and do business as a Liberian citizen. I don't want to come home and say, okay, I'm a foreigner, knowing that I was born in Liberia and I'm from here, right? So I believe that if if that is changed, Liberia can be, more people will have will take the initiative of coming home. And speaking on the infrastructure policies, I do believe, that's something that the last government did some fantastic work when it comes to the infrastructure, especially the roads, right? And me being in the agriculture sector, where our farm is located, from there to the capital, is we strategically bought land in an area where we can get our product from farm to capital. But certain farmers, more northern Liberia, the roads during the rainy season, the roads are horrendous, right? So if you're spending your time investing into your crops or investing into your livestock or whatever it is, to get it from 10 hours away to the capital to sell with the roads in the condition is in, is a loss in your investment, right? So these are the things that I really believe a strong investment from the government into the infrastructure of the country will help Liberia in a very, 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 very good way.
Okay, so initially, at the start of this conversation, you spoke about a few sectors where people can invest in Liberia. We've spoken about manufacturing, but if you were to provide details, as a Liberian who has done business in Liberia, you've been exposed to the global, the larger global society. Come back in Liberia. How would you what sectors would you advise an investor to invest in?
Okay.
What sectors besides?
First and foremost, agriculture, right? Agriculture, because the Liberia, I believe, imports 75, and don't quote me on the numbers, but 75 to 80% of everything consumed in the country is imported. Example, we're one of our official, one of our most financially burdened project that we're getting into is we want to, like I told you earlier, we want to bring a commercialized poultry farm to Liberia. That will provide about 600 jobs, and this project is going to be worth anywhere from $8 to $14 million, right? 90%, Liberia consumes about 14.7 kgs of poultry meat per year. And that's more than every other country in West Africa. Yeah. And 90% of the poultry that's consumed in the country is imported from Brazil. Spent 60 days on the sea, filled with chemicals, and these things are not healthy and sustainable for the country. So, like I said, agriculture is something that we're passionate about, and that's something that I believe that once you feed the people, you provide, like I said, you provide jobs for people. There's people in the interior, indigenous Liberians, who don't have that educational level of going into the city, again, a corporate jobs, right? You can train them on a agriculture skill and help them, and provide work and provide, an income for. So agriculture is something that I believe is imperative for the country. Secondly, like I told you, tourism industry, beautiful beaches. Liberia has one of the largest rainforests in the world, right? We have the largest rubber plantation in the world. We have, vast forests, different animals. We have chimpanzees on the island. We have many different things that, the average person, will want to go to Liberia and see, right? So I believe the tourism industry is something that, should be explored or something that should be invested in by FDIs. Secondly, the energy sector, right? We have there are some foreign companies that are coming in and making these investments into the energy sector, but then again, we have a hydro plant that supplies basically half of the capital, whereas in the other half, it's on something called community current. So if you bring a generator in the community, you hook up 40 of your neighbors to your generator, right? And they pay you a certain percentage a month. But we're in the 21st century, right? Basic amenities like power is a right for people, right? People need that to sustain themselves, and people need it to survive, pretty much. Because if you're communicating with the outside world and you cannot charge your cell phone, how is that, this is 2021, right? So the energy sector, I believe, is something that we desperately need investors, or we desperately need the government to invest more into. Affordable housing, like I told you, we are developing some affordable housing projects. Transportation, and another one that I would recommend as well is storage, cold storages, right? Once again, people farm to get your products from the farm to market. You need, or even if you're in the market and you need to store your products or but there's a marine industry, there's a fishing industry, right? So if you need to store your fish for the next day, there's nowhere to store your products, right? And it affects your bottom line, because you're not going to take warm fish to the market the next day, right? So these are things that I believe is imperative. I believe that investors who are looking for Liberia should look into.
Okay, fantastic. So a lot of people who would like to invest in a country, including indigenous of that country, consider the ease of doing business. Ease of doing business, what are your rules, what are your regulations, what are the policies in place, what are the processes to establish a business, how transparent is it, how effortless is it? So, in your opinion, is Liberia really ready to attract foreign direct investments post COVID-19? Because COVID-19 had taken a toll on various countries across the world, particularly Africans, particularly in Africa, because of course in Africa, our economy was already dwindling, the natural resources are there, but the finance is not there. We were struggling like handicapped to get the resources, and then COVID came, which now slowed down investments in country, in continent. A country like Liberia, what are the social indicators you can tell investors to look out for to say that, okay, Liberia is absolutely ready for investments and ready for business? The president is consistently saying Liberia is open for business. He's given his reasons, but I'd like to hear from you on the entrepreneurship, business side. What social indicators do you currently see?
Okay, and this is, and first of all, it's a great question, and I only have one answer to that question. The number one social indicator that I see that Liberia is absolutely ready is the workforce. You understand? 75% of the population in the capital, Monrovia, is under the age of 25. 75% is under the age of 25. So with that is a vast labor force, young labor force, right? That is something that any investor who has a longevity foresight can see that, okay, this is, and it's affordable labor force as well, right? And there's a lot of kids that are walking around the city with absolutely nothing to do, because there's no jobs that are being available to them, right? So that is the key to the future of Liberia. The president, like I said, they're trying, the government is trying. I'm not gonna sit here and say the Liberian government are not trying. There are incentives, right? The Liberian investment commission put in incentive that if a company is coming into Liberia and bringing in about 500,000 US worth of investment and above, you have tax incentives, you have clearance incentive, a duty incentive. You're importing things into the country, right? So they are putting things in place to make it more attractive for foreign investors. But when it comes to social indicators, like I said, the labor force, the young, energetic labor force is something that I honestly believe, just by seeing that, it makes me, excited about investing in Liberia, because, without a labor force, the chances of success is slim, right? So I think that's the key.
Two final questions before I call it a wrap. Now,
Okay.
the second to the final question I'd like to inquire from you is about security. So a lot of people look at your security matrix before they come to university. There's been so many things said about Liberia. A few people who have been to Liberia have said that some of these metrics are exaggerated, so to speak, overrated. In your analysis, Liberia, unlike every other African country, is the security situation so bad? I don't think so.
Can you repeat the question? I couldn't really hear you.
Okay, so the question I'm asking you is about security. So everybody an environment where they feel safe. The largest
yes.
safe in an environment is an investor. Whether you are in that, you are a part of that community or you're not a part of that community. So for me, sometimes I feel like security situation in Liberia is over exaggerated, like it's overrated, comparable to other Western African countries. So I'm trying to get the perspective as a gentleman who has lived in Liberia and has done business in Liberia. Is the security situation in Liberia as bad as pundits and a lot of external people opine? I don't think so.
That's a great question. I believe I just got back from Liberia. I was there since January. I just got back about 2 weeks ago to the States, right? It's extremely exaggerated. If you're in Liberia, you're safe. Liberia is not a dangerous place where you say, okay, I can't go out at night or I can't. It's one of the freest countries you can be in, right? There's no violent crimes, or there's no, you're walking down the street and somebody is gonna mug you for this or that. None of all that is exaggerated. I believe that's the narrative, the stigma that Liberia carries from the Civil War, right? Everything that Liberia has been throughout the years, I believe that stigma still follows the country. But in terms of security and in terms of safety, you are absolutely safe. There's not even, our police officers don't even carry weapons. So there's no violent weapons in Liberia. There's none of that. It's a free and safe country. And I will vouch for that country.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Rafia. So your final comment to the UK-Liberia Chamber of Commerce. So we are a Chamber of Commerce like every other Chamber of Commerce, but we are the only certified international organization in the United Kingdom that promotes trade between Liberia and the United Kingdom. Of course, we facilitate imports and exports, goods and services, business services between both regions, sometimes extended to the Kano region, the likes of Sierra Leone, So what is your message to UK-Liberia Chamber of Commerce? We've been putting together this series of interviews for entrepreneurs, businesses, financial institutions, PSOs, NGOs, to name a few. I don't really know if this is synonymous with other chambers, but I do know that we are one of such few chambers who showcases the best entrepreneurs from Liberia, of course from the UK. So what's your message to our chamber?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'll say thank you guys very much. Thank you in the sense that you're shining light on the positive things that are coming out of Liberia. Where, like I said, we're so stigmatized with war-torn country, violent, this and that. There's a lot of negative stigmas and negative ideologies of Liberia out there. and your chamber shining light on the positive attributes of Liberians and the country is something that's admirable. It's something that I honestly appreciate, because now it gives people, especially in the UK or people outside of the UK, a more positive outlook. It gives them something to think about, something to say, okay, let's go to Liberia and take a look to see what this entrepreneur, this person is speaking of. And that helps us as well, because it brings more to our country, and it helps, takes us to the next level. So I thank you guys for the time. I really appreciate you reaching out. And I'm sorry I wasn't communicating as fast. I've just been so busy. But thank you so much, and you guys continue doing it any way that we can help. You have my contact information. You can feel free to let me contact me whenever you can, and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Raf. We'll keep you updated with post-interview developments. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I can thank you enough. Keep up the good work you're doing in the USA and in Liberia. He's the CEO and founder of TBG Business Group. They are indigenous in Liberia, but like we did say, this interview was conducted right there in the US. Thank you. And of course, we wish you the best in all your endeavors, and we look forward to seeing you again in Liberia. We do hope you keep us posted when you return to Liberia. Thank you very much, Mr. Rafia, once again. My name is Wofai Samuel. I'm the Communications and External Affairs Director of UK-Liberia Chamber of Commerce in London. And of course, from me, it's goodbye. I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Yes, okay. I lost you there for a second.
Yes, I was just about to sign out. I said thank you very much. It's been talking to
you. All right.
Thank you. I'll keep you updated with post-event developments.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
You and have a nice day. Bye for now. Bye.
You too.